All right, well, good evening, everyone. We do have a quorum now with Paulette and Warren joining us online. So we can get started. It is, what is it? 7:04. So welcome to today's meeting of the Oakland Mills Community Association Village Board meeting. As always, we're going to start off with a little bit of administrative business. The first item being approval of the minutes from our August 27th, 2024 board meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? I have a motion from Andrew. Is there a second? I have a second from Warren. Is there any discussion of those minutes? Okay, all in favor of approving? 1, 2, 3. Is that a yes from Paulette? All right,
Yes.
4-0. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Yeah.
I'll take a motion from Andrew. I'll take a second from Warren. Any discussion of tonight's agenda? Okay, all in favor of approving? 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
And Paulette, voice vote 4-0-0. Okay. Resident remarks. No one checked off they want to speak here in the room. Is there anyone online who wanted to make remarks? If so, you have 3 minutes. And I see Alex, so let me start the timer. And as soon as you're ready, I'll start the timer, Alex. Alex, I think you need to unmute. I can see the mute thing on next to his name, right? I think.
There we go.
There we go.
Sorry about
All
that. All right. My name is Alex Hakimian. I'm the president of the Holly Court Community Association. And I just want to say how much our Holly Court community appreciates your ongoing support of not only the law, the HOA infrastructure funding law that the General Assembly finally passed earlier this year, but also for the proposed pilot project, which will provide some solid experience in how to implement the law. So we're anxious to get started with that project, and we are again very, very grateful to the village board for trying to make this project advance, and anything we can do to help your efforts, please let us know.
Thank you, Alex. We were pleased to see that as well. And obviously later on in business, we have a letter that Bill has drafted up that we'll be discussing. So I think I know I personally, but I think we share your hope for the potential future of a project.
Thank you. Very much appreciated.
Okay. Anyone else for remarks online? I don't think so. All right. So let's go right into new business. The first item is brought to us by Brigida, and that is a potential new opportunity that Brigida is proposing OMCA offer to nonprofit organizations operating within the Oakland Mills community. And take it away.
Hi, yes. So we often get a lot of calls and requests from small nonprofits in Oakland Mills, whether it's a PTA or one, a mom's group or something in Oakland Mills that are looking for a meeting space, maybe just for once or maybe a couple nights, and they really don't have the money to pay for, time here at the other barn. And typically we would require them a certain amount of time to make it worthwhile for our staff to be here and for a setup, etc. So Ashley, who is the rental and facility coordinator, and I discussed coming up with something to kind of offset those, and this was the free meeting space opportunity. And like Jonathan said, it would be for nonprofit, or you would have to be a nonprofit organization, and you would have to be part of the Oakland Mills community. And then there's certain requirements that we ask for. Requests must be made at least 6 weeks prior to meeting time, And it will be granted based on our availability. Meetings will take place in the Smithy room, which is this room. They will take place between 6 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. We will have a contract because our management agreement with CA does require us to have a contract for anybody using our space. And during the time that they're meeting, we would also be offering our potential rental tours. So our staff person would also be, so there would be other people in the building. It says for a one-time use, the offer is not available for consecutive use, but what that means is like, you can't have like every Monday night meeting. But if, let's say, you had a meeting in May, and then you wanted another meeting in September, then that's probably, that would be okay if we had the space. There would be no hybrid meeting option available because that does require additional equipment and somebody additional on staff to be here. And then in order to get this out, if in fact it's voted on, we would send it out in our community email, probably as part of our e-news. Then there are some things where it would not be available on nights that we have rehearsals here, which are typically Wednesday and Thursday evenings. We have a group that meets here the first Tuesday of every month. It would not be available on those nights, and it wouldn't be available on board meeting nights. So that's the policy. Of course, it's new business, so it's just being presented. If anybody has any questions, or after reviewing it, they have anything that maybe we didn't think of or a suggestion, of course, we'd be open to that as well.
I have one initial question, like if,
Sure.
I'm guessing the budget looks fine, like if we have to pay for like a staff member to be here, like there won't be any.
Right, yeah, so that's why we have to make sure, as far as part of making sure we have it available is making sure that we would have staff available to work. And so we're open during the nights on particular situations anyway. And that's why we want to make it also a night where there were tours available for potential renters, yeah.
Okay.
Question. Other questions? I have a couple, but I'll wait.
Oh, Karen has her hand up.
Yeah, sorry, you guys, I can't find the thing where you raise your hand on here like Alex did. I know it's here somewhere. Brigitte, just out of curiosity, how would this have impacted, we had that meeting for traffic safety. How would that have impacted that?
Well, they weren't really a nonprofit organization. So probably it wouldn't have had much impact at all.
I'm just curious. The reason I'm asking is because a contract will be developed, like with the new rules that CA is imposing with the management contract. With the the traffic safety group is really an unofficial organization, right? Like they don't have any bylaws or anything like that. They're just a group of residents who care about traffic safety. And we use the Smithy room, but would we have had to sign a contract?
It's kind of like a tricky situation because that was, I guess perhaps if in the future, it might have to be a contract. It's one of those kind of like fine lines, I guess. We have in the past, we have had other groups meet here that don't have contracts. But part of this being that it would, I guess our thinking when we put that down was that it might be groups that we are unfamiliar with. And so it would kind of be like a legitimate, I don't want to say legitimate because that doesn't sound right, but it would be something official. So they would have to be held to the fact that they were in fact going to be using the building and we were going to be providing the space and staffing for it. So I guess I'd have to look at the management facility agreement more specifically to ensure, that for anything in the future, and I can let you know.
So did that group meet without, there's always staff present anytime we use the building.
Right.
But did that group meet without anyone from OMCA in their meeting? I realize they're not like a a subcommittee of OMCA, but I thought
I was
basically we
here.
were working
Karen was
together
here.
with them.
Yeah,
So,
and
so,
that's
and
true.
that to me is the
Yeah.
difference, right? If, you know, someone from OMCA who's responsible for this facility is also there meeting with the group, then
Yeah,
I think that's a little different than just saying, yeah, the PTA can meet
Okay.
here and, you know, we'll be out front, you meet back here and we trust you with the building.
yeah, that is a good point, and that is why I was here on that evening, so, yeah. So thank you, Jonathan, that is.
Thank you.
exactly.
But along Karen's lines of questioning, I did have a couple of questions. One is, I understand that the contract. Are we also gonna need a certificate of insurance from these nonprofits? Because they all should be insured for events.
We could get, you know, that's one of the, that's one of the part of the management agreement that we are currently negotiating is the whole when is insurance needed and when is it not. We in Oakland Mills actually go above and beyond what the insurance requirements are for our events. So I do know that when we started to go above and beyond, we switched from Tulip to requiring each renter have their day of rental insurance. When it was a smaller group that was meeting, where it may have been, they were paying, but it was like if the village in Howard was having a small meeting here, we didn't require them to get a
Okay.
certificate of insurance. So again, because it's technically, we are not required in those situations to have additional insurance. It's kind of like an extra policy to protect the renter. When it was a situation, like I said, like a village in Howard, where it was just like a group of 12 playing, you know, games or having a small meeting back here. But they do in fact pay us to rent a space. We did not require them to have it. So I think that short answer is it will probably be more specific once the agreement is negotiated.
So that's what I was thinking. So my suggestion is, since we could theoretically in 2 weeks vote this in the policy, which would be ahead of the new contract. Should we put like some disclaimer on the bottom, you know, saying that, you know, something along the lines of, you know, requirements are subject to change per, you know, no, I'm trying to think of the right language, but basically, we reserve the right to change, we or CA reserve the right to change these requirements, you know, based on our contractual relationship, something like that.
No, that's good. That's good. Okay.
I can't think of the right words, but you know what I'm getting at
Yes.
here. And then the other question I have is, it says no hybrid meeting available. I'm assuming that means we wouldn't provide that, but I'm thinking, right, if someone wanted to set up their own and
Yes,
get on our
that's
public
true.
Wi-Fi, it's, you know, it's basically at their risk if it works, but we're not like prohibiting them from streaming out of the other barn. We're just not providing the service.
That is
correct?
true, right?
Okay,
So I can add that in there too. Okay.
those were my 2 questions.
No, those are good questions and good points. Thank you.
I have another question too.
Go for it.
So hey, Brigida, do you recall when last year the Oakland Mills local leadership team did their movie night?
Mhm.
And we worked it out so that actually they were covered under CA's insurance. And I can't remember what we did in that scenario. So I want, like, those are things that I think that we should think about was we're doing that management contract. And I'm glad you brought this up today. I love this idea. I think it's good. And I like that it's fleshed out a bit, but I also think we should look at the different scenarios that we experience, like the traffic safety group, Oakland Mills local leadership team wanting to do the movie night out in the parking lot, that kind of stuff. So, because we do, there's so many things that we support.
We don't
Well-
manage the parking lot, right? That's
Yes, CA does manage the parking lot, but I can say if there is an event in Oakland Mills, and Oakland Mills is working with that group to host that event. Whether it's just me being here or if it's Amy or Ashley, if one of us is here to assist with the event, or we're just working, you know, in a partnership like we did with the movie night for Oakland Mills local leadership team, that is what allows us to not have to get additional insurance, because it's
Okay.
Oakland Mills is working in partnership with. And
Okay,
we
that makes
do
sense.
have- Yeah, so like Oakland Mills Local Leadership Team is one of the groups that we're a partner with, you know, Oakland Mills Online. So those groups, we often work alongside as a partner.
Okay.
I have a question. Is, you say, part of the Oakland Mills community, is Bike Hoco part of the Oakland Mills community?
Well, that brings up a good point, Warren, because you do activities in Oakland Mills and members of Oakland Mills are part of Bike Coco. Board members. Yes, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that one. I'd have to think about that and see how it fits in again with the facility agreement. I mean, personally, here's, I guess, my thinking is we have to draw a line somewhere. And so we don't know if we're gonna get a lot of requests or only a few requests, but we have to kind of draw a line somewhere. So I guess the idea is, what do we draw the line on at? And so that's where Ashley and I came up with nonprofit organizations within Oakland Mills. So
I mean, there's a way of defining within Oakland Mills. You could just, this might be too restrictive, but it's easy to figure out. If their, legal documents, their articles of incorporation are in Oakland Mills address, then they are within
okay.
Oakland Mills.
Yeah.
Then the answer is no, because it's in Wild Lake.
Right.
So, okay.
Well, and I'll be honest, I might be, whatever that saying is, which I always get those things, putting the wagon, what is that saying?
Putting the cart before the horse.
That one, yeah, my mom always used to tell me I mix those things up, but anyway, if in fact I don't know what other villages do, and I don't know if it's a successful thing in Oakland Mills, that it might be something, because I feel like my personal opinion is that because we are located within communities, that's one of the benefits of being located within the communities, is we have this space available. So if we're able to offer it to groups that maybe can't afford to pay for meeting space. So I would hope that maybe if it's successful in our village, maybe it might be something I would share with other villages too. And so then Warren Wild Lake, if it's where you're situated, you might be able to meet over there. So it's something I was actually gonna bring up at the village managers meeting tomorrow.
And that was just the thought I had, because it's clean, right? You can just, you can look them up and, oh, okay, your
Right.
address is, whatever in Oakland, okay. You're within Oakland Mills, because that's public information. Otherwise, you're right, you're kind of, you sort of have to interpret all those gray areas, and then, someone's going to get upset because we say, well, you only do 3% of your activities in Oakland Mills, and we kind of feel like it has to be at least 10, and
Right.
we have no real way of defining that, and, so I was just looking at something clean. And the other thought, the other thing I thought, because when we first talked about it, we were talking about it within the context of like the school buildings closing down.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things one of the things we hope to face over the next almost 10 years is having some of these school buildings like closed down over the summer, or unavailable after hours because of all the construction we hope to have happening. So, those are the kind of groups that are going to be displaced and looking for places where they can continue to meet. There are plenty of other, things going on in the community as well that are going to benefit from this. But I know when we were talking about this a while back, and you said, I have this idea, I'm going to write something up, bring it to the board. It was kind of within the context of that, where, like the high school building was closed all summer, so no one could have, their regular meetings there.
Well, and I think it can be a win-win, because then the groups that are coming in, they also find out where we are and who we are and what we're about, and then maybe it only leads to more collaboration with them, so. So I'll look up some of those questions And, I will also look at, the new facility agreement to see if there might be any hiccups, and I can send that information out to everybody.
It's good, we can do some serious business here. Any other questions? All
thank you.
right, thank you, Brigida. So as always on a new business item, to the board, just take a look at this over the next couple of weeks between our meetings. If you think of anything else, have other questions, send them Brigida's way, and then Brigida, just like with anything else, it's up to you to come back and say, I'm ready to put it as old business on the agenda and potentially vote. So,
Okay. Okay.
all right, that's it for new business. Old business, we got Paulette, welcome back. Oh no, wearing a Yankees mask, maybe not welcome back, come on. Come on, do you know my boss joined a virtual meeting with me yesterday? She came on camera and she was wearing an Indianapolis Colts sweatshirt. I'm like, I almost hung up. Anyway, Paulette is here to present to us again the tenant committee charter after receiving, I think, some suggested edits as well as comments and questions from the board. So Paulette, first of all, welcome back. Glad you're doing better, and I'll turn it over to you.
This is the charter that we came up with. The tenant committee as an advisory committee of the Open Mills Community Association. Will advocate for and assist the tenants in Open Mills in navigating the Howard County resources available to support them. The committee's objectives are advocating for and engage with tenants, including but not limited to the following functions. Serve as a liaison between the village board and the tenants of Open Mills. Help to advocate for tenant rights to the Columbia Association. Be a representative of all tenants of Open Mills. Localize and promote tenant needs and tenant committee activities on social media. Provide information and support to tenant organizations to create a healthy, livable community. Engage in outreach activities to tenants directly and increase their participation in village board elections and activities. Conduct annual leadership elections to allow tenants to elect representatives to advocate on their behalf. Also, tenant organization support, including but not limited to the following functions. Assist tenants in the formation and implementation of tenant organizations. Conduct initial tenant organization elections and verify information petitions, signatures, and desired by tenant organizations and community. Establish communications with tenant organizations and neighboring jurisdictions. Also, resource sharing, including but not limited to the following functions. Provide tenant right information to tenants, help connect tenants and need with nonprofits, government agencies, local elected officials, and other institutions. And lastly, coalition building and legislative work, including but not limited to the following functions. Advocate for legislative reforms and executive action in the state governments to improve the material conditions of tenants. Communicate and coordinate with tenant committees, tenants, tenant organizations, and village boards and other Columbia villages as well as participate with and other housing and tenant advocacy groups and coalitions.
Thank you. And I think several of the comments and edits were addressed. I had a couple of others, but I'll turn it over to the board to see if anyone else had comments or questions for Paulette.
That's good.
I did something and I can't figure out how to move it down, so I apologize that I didn't get to.
Oh, it's okay. I
scroll
can't see a thing on the screen anyway. I don't know if I can-
Karen has her hand raised, I can tell you that.
Oh, she does. Oh, I can't
Yes.
see that. Okay, Karen?
Sorry, I started
Karen?
talking, completely forgot I was muted. Hey Paulette, first of all, really good work on this. I know this was a big lift, and so I appreciate everything you brought to us. I have a question about the committee's objectives. You've got help to advocate for tenants' rights to the Columbia Association. And I'm wondering what you guys have in mind with that particular one.
That probably goes back to a question that we had about the Columbia Association. What someone on the steering committee, we didn't really understand how the village board and CA is connected or like
Okay.
how it works, so that might kind of help with that once we figure that out.
Yeah, my personal opinion is it's up to you whether you take it out or leave it in. My personal preference would be, I think you should take it out because I don't think that it buys you anything. Oakland Mills, and Jonathan and everyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but Oakland Mills is one of the villages is in a very unique situation in that they have oversight or governance, I'm not sure how to phrase that, of exterior alterations for these commercial properties. Some villages don't have that. So it actually does go to like the Columbia Association or some Howard Hughes claimed that they had an architectural committee, but they did not. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. In Oakland Mills, our village does have oversight of that. We do pay attention to that stuff. And that was some of the things that we could really help with when the tenants came to us from the point, is starting to look at what was going on outside. Were they picking up their trash because of all the different problems that were listed to us? Whereas I'm not sure that you're going to get anything out of the Columbia Association. So that's what I was wondering, like, what are you hoping to get from them, from the tenants committee, and how would you approach them? Would you do it through the board representative, through the council rep? Would you go to resident speak out? How would you do that? Whereas you have a much more hands-on opportunity. You actually have, for example, Ashley comes to this meeting, Vicky comes to this meeting, and so we have presence from Opal, we have presence from Calvin Ball, which you won't get that at a Columbia Association board meeting. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that might be what was really important. I think it meant like to bring it to the village board to advocate, like us advocate, taking the issue to the village board and the village board advocating for the tenants committee.
Okay.
So we don't really need that, you're saying we already have oversight.
Yeah, I don't think you need that one in there.
Yeah, Paulette, what you're saying is probably covered in that second to last bullet for local and state government, because Karen is right. The CA board and the Columbia Association, oddly enough, even though they're bigger, aren't really empowered to do much of anything in these situations, other than if we bring an exterior issue that they won't resolve to them, they're the ones who can take them to court, but we would bring that to them anyway.
Right.
Now, if your play area is bad or your path isn't paved, bring it to the CA board.
We might strike that. Were there other questions or comments? Bill?
Okay. Paulette, first of all, it's a lot of hard work. Excellent to make it more and more well-defined and organized, okay? Because it's really difficult to take lots of ideas from lots of folks and then organize the chaos, okay? Which is excellent. And I had a question on the second main bullet point, tenant organization support. The second bullet point under that, conduct initial tenant organization elections and verify formation petition signatures when desired by tenant organizations in the making. And it looks like there might have been an omission at the end of the sentence. And the question I have is, tenant organizations is not tenant committee like you're chairing, but I'm guessing tenant organizations in Oakland Mills and any tenant group, and my concern would be conducting the elections and verifying petition signatures. I don't know whether that would be acceptable under our bylaws or not. I don't know. And so I'm raising that question.
I actually, I asked the same question when it was first presented, and I'm still not,
Because
I'm
there's
still
no
not sure.
precedent. There's no, with the law, the Howard County law for the tenant organizations, there's no precedent, there's nothing to go by, there's
Mhm.
no other company or anything, so what I was gonna do was reach out to Paul Thompson and maybe see if maybe they can help, guide us and what they think that they do about that, because there's, we don't have anything to go by, because we don't have any other tenant organizations.
See, I was thinking that probably a tenant organization is, probably like a, well, like kind of like we are, probably a tax exempt 501c4, maybe a 501c3, but probably has to go through like a similar, if they want to be recognized officially as an organization, go through a similar,
Right.
incorporation and charter process, through the state, so they can actually operate as a business entity. My concern in reading that, well, two things. First of all, I don't think any committee of Oakland Mills would have the authority to do that. I think it would actually fall upon us, as the village board to do that. And I'm not even sure how we could. Yeah, even if we're within our legal rights to do it, I'm just not sure how we could, like, if we even have the resources or the know-how to go out and verify signatures and say, yes, indeed, all 300 of these people do live at Autumn Crest, Columbia Point, whatever, they have validly, because we don't have access to that. Those are all private contracts between the landlord and the tenant. It's a bit different than, homeownership, where we can go out to the real estate database that Maryland provides and say, yep, this person owns that property, that's the one. That's what concerns me a bit.
Right, the signatures, but as far as the elections go, that would be something, they would be putting out their flyers, and then it would just be held at our meeting, basically, and we would be monitoring it. It wouldn't be anything that we would have any control over, because Columbia Point tenants, any of the tenants, Autumn Press, whoever, we offered that they would have it during a tenants meeting. So we wouldn't be doing anything, we're basically monitoring it if the signature thing is not, posted or anything like that. Because we really don't know what to do, because again, there's no precedent, there's nothing,
So it sounds like what you would be doing is just posting it, basically like having the ballot box present here, right?
Right, they would get to speak if they wanted to, and just like we did for our steering committee, we sent out flyers, we got a QR code, we got a Google form sheet, people showed up, some people showed up on Zoom. They, said, they did a speech about why they wanted, each, position and things like that, and we voted, and we were probably gonna do it the same way. But if we can't verify signatures, then again, that's something that I was trying to talk to Paul Thompson about. To see if we can find some type of way to legitimize it. But right now, there's nothing on the books and that. Is it first?
Is Paul Thompson, Howard County or?
He works for the county executive, yeah.
County executive staff.
The bylaws, it's in Article 3 that relates to committees, and it's literally one paragraph. Is that the paragraph you read? Yeah, it is very informative, I agree, and it doesn't, it says the board of directors shall the board of directors may by resolution provide for an executive committee and for such other standing or special committees as it deems desirable, and discontinue the same at pleasure. Each such committee shall have such powers and perform such duties not inconsistent with law as it may be assigned to it by the board of directors.
So these are our bylaws you're talking about, right?
Yes,
And we're establishing the committee, but this is actually now this committee helping other tenant
right.
organizations get established, so
It's
that's,
outside of
that's
our,
the thing I don't think is inside our scope.
Yeah, can I jump in here? I mean, one of the things that it sounds to me, Paulette, what you're trying to do in this section is you're trying to provide a neutral location for the tenants to hold elections. And you're not really like, I think the word conduct, you're not gonna do that, right? You're not gonna, the tenants have to do this. So if
Right.
if the residents at the point wanna have a tenant organization, they are the ones who have to form that organization. We can assist them with making sure that, can we help them with resources? Can we help them with resources that the county has if they want to do something like that? Who would be somebody that they could talk to who could give them legal advice about forming a tenant organization? But I think it's tricky business if we start conducting elections on their behalf. I think if we wanted to say, we'll provide a neutral location, the village center, we just talked about Brigida, and we've got, if we have a committee, you can use the village center to hold the meetings, to hold the elections. That's probably not above and beyond, but I don't think we should actually be conducting the elections. We shouldn't be in the place of sending out ballots or anything like that. If you wanted to monitor tenant organization elections, I think that even that would be a little bit, that might be stepping out of bounds too a little bit. I'll leave it to Jonathan and Brigida, who know our bylaws a lot better, but I feel uncomfortable with that because I think we could end up getting in not trouble, but it could pose issues for us, and we want to remain neutral. The tenant committee wants to advocate on behalf of the residents, the tenants in these apartment complexes. But at the same time, we're also neutral ground, right? We're not going to give them legal advice. We're going to say, here's a model. Here's a model for what other organizations have done. We have this available for you, or things like that. We'll have information for them so that they can go forward and do what they need to do. We'll offer them that support. But conducting elections, as I said earlier, I think that's a little bit beyond the boundaries of what we should be doing.
Yeah, well, and Karen, you make a good point about neutral ground, because I know this isn't going to be a popular sentiment, because admittedly, landlords have a lot of the power and tenants don't.
Yep.
But actually, the way we're set up, the landlords are also members of our association
Mhm.
because they own
Mhm.
own property here. So we also have to be careful about that, because if we do things that make us look impartial, then let's say we do have one of those situations where they won't fix something outside and we refer to CA. Well, one of the first things the CA lawyers look at is, did you treat the party fairly? We're not taking the case if we think OMCA has some bias. So we have to watch out for that, because if that happens, it could backfire. And we have had that without talking about things I can't talk about too much on advice of the CA attorneys. We have had that situation in the past with other boards, with other properties in Oakland Mills, where CA basically came and said, yeah, that place is a disaster, but we're not touching this because of, it doesn't look like it was handled impartially. So we do have to be careful.
Okay.
You may also want to look into the law regarding like tenant associations and stuff, because I researched this a few years ago, and I think I remember there being something about landlords needing to allow elections to take place and to provide space for that, and so.
But that's only after your,
So it's just the initial.
Yeah, once you're legitimized, other than that, they can just keep tearing down your stuff, doing whatever, like.
But they don't have to provide.
Yeah, they don't have to do
Any
anything
support at all,
until it's
yeah.
actually legitimized. But what I was gonna say is, you're saying that it looks impartial, but it seems as if everything has been more towards the homeowners. So it also looks impartial to the tenants as well, it looks like it's just, everybody just only cares about the homeowners. So what about that? Because that's how the tenants kind of feel.
Here's, let me make this suggestion, okay? That second bullet point, conduct initial tenant organization, et cetera. to strike that bullet point, and to the first bullet point above it, add at the beginning of it, encourage creation of tenant organizations in
Yes.
Oakland Mills. And then the first bullet point, assist tenants in the formation and implementation of tenant organizations.
I think that's excellent, Bill.
I think that, yeah, puts us back on that neutral ground, because we're still helping our residents, but, you know, no one's gonna come back and say, well, OMCA set up the whole association or organization, right?
Right.
I also think I think you're on the right track to talk to Paul Thompson, because probably what we also need is for the office, Howard County Office of Law to weigh in and really inform, you know, you and us, okay, what does the law say? What are the legal rights? Yeah.
That's the other thing, Paulette, that I think that, I don't know where you would put it in here, is that the tenant committee needs to understand the laws. They need to know the laws inside, and I mean, that should be one of the things, that they have solid knowledge, understanding, however you want to word it, of the laws impacting tenants and tenant organizations here in Howard County. So that you can talk, so you know where to direct people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So the other one, only other one I had a question about was where it said at the bottom of the first major section. It says conduct annual committee leadership elections to allow tenants to elect representatives to advocate on their behalf. But that's within your committee, correct?
Yeah.
So, like generally, because OMCA committees are advisory, well, the village board actually has to authorize the committee, which we've done, and then elect a chair, you know, who's nominated to us, which we've done. Generally, the committees don't have leadership structure beyond that. What kind of leadership structure were you saying? Because that's another one where I don't know if that has to then be brought back for every position you want, or whether you need those positions, because it's not like other ones where you need like a treasurer and a secretary and all that, but.
You do need a secretary. We do
Okay.
need a secretary. We have a secretary, we have a vice chair, and then we have at-large positions. And they're representatives for each apartment complex or any tenant in open events. So they're like open positions.
Okay.
And then everybody else is a tenant representing each apartment.
But one thought I have on that, Jonathan, is that you could probably do all of that informally without making a formal, that you bring it to the board. I'm the chair, we've got this vice chair, et cetera, we want our board to approve it. You could just make it informal that way within your committee, because it helps get stuff done within your committee, and you're chairing that committee. So informal, you have a vice chair who would maybe lead a meeting if you're sick or something, and then the secretary will take the notes. And then informally, you have a representative from each of the apartment complexes. But you would keep that all within the committee. You would be the only appointed position as chair. And that gives you then a lot more flexibility to run the committee. That's
Yeah.
my thought on that.
So my suggestion would be take this out of the objectives, because it's really not an objective of the committee. It's just like internal business, how you're going to run it.
So it's the second one, the tenant organization.
It's the,
The
so
last one on the first.
it's the last one on the first major bullet, the annual committee leadership elections. Yeah, because the only thing we need to do annually really is authorize the committee to elect a chair, and then that chair can, you know, run the committee's internal business as they see fit. You know, if the chair determines they need a secretary, then they can go to the committee and say, I need a secretary, and figure out how they're gonna get their secretary. But you know, when you put it in the charter, then it implies that there's like a formal structure, and then we'd have to approve the formal structure and all the officers and everything. We're trying to give you more flexibility and avoid all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so actually taking it out is probably better for the committee to have
Yes,
flexibility than leaving it in.
exactly.
And then the only other comment I had, and I think I made this comment before, so it may have just been missed, in the coalition building section, where it says advocate for legislative reforms and executive action in local and state government.
We were talking about the bad landlord bill thing.
Yeah, my only suggestion, since it is an advisory committee, is add, in front of that, add the words, advise OMCA on advocacy for it. Because right, anytime we take an official position with, our local, state, any elected officials, it's OMCA that does it, so the committee brings it to OMCA, and then we decide, okay, we're gonna take that position and go forward. Now, we may just turn around and say to the committee chair, now go testify. But the committee doesn't do that, directly without first coming to us to make sure that it fits with the policy we want to put forward.
Right, but it was, we were talking about the policies that you guys had already talked about, because they were tenant policies, and we were trying to get all the tenants involved and make sure they get out. So, yeah, I get it.
Anything else?
I think this is really good, Paulette. This was good
Yeah.
discussion.
So if my notes are correct, we've proposed striking the second bullet under the first major bullet about Columbia Association. Striking the last bullet in that section about leadership elections. In the first bullet of the very last section in coalition building, just add advise OMCA on advocacy for legislative reforms instead of, advocate directly. And then, excuse me, the thing that's kind of unresolved, because we need to maybe better understand what rights and responsibilities are under state and county law, is the tenant organization elections. So I'm gonna offer a suggestion, Paulette, take it or leave it, let me know how you feel. We could probably, with the revisions I just stated.
And then
We
there
could
was one more under my suggestion, that first bullet point, under the second major bullet point,
Yeah,
ditch the second bullet point. And then add to the first bullet point, encourage creation of tenant organizations in Oakland Mills and assist tenants in the formation
Oh,
implementation.
okay, I was gonna suggest something else.
Oh, okay, very
Because
good.
we were unsure about where everything stands legally.
Okay, very good.
I was
very
gonna
good.
suggest, we could, with the edits I stated, we could
Yeah.
probably pass this charter. Minus right now, those first two tenant organization support bullets, because we're unsure if you just want to get the charter passed and get it done.
Mhm.
And then as you work with, Paul in the Office of Law, if they can come back with something solid, we could always amend it. And then at least there's a charter that
Right.
covers all these other things, and we go from there. Or we could wait until we figure that out before we pass the whole charter. But my suggestion would be just pass it without those things, get those clarified, and then come back with an amendment. Once
I
we have
agree.
that clarified, and that way all the other stuff is set and you go.
Mhm.
I get it.
And with that, Jonathan, I'll move that we approve the charter with the set amendments and the suggestion under the second bullet point that you've made.
All right, is there a second to
I'll
that?
second.
Or a second from Andrew? All right, any further discussion? Online, were we all speaking clearly enough that you could follow what we're proposing to do here? Are you waving or going so, Warren?
That's a so-so.
All right, let me summarize once more as we work through the document. So, first major bullet, and when I say major bullet, I mean the bold stuff that's more left justified. First major bullet, strike the second sub bullet about advocate to the Columbia Association. Strike the last sub bullet about committee leadership elections. Second major bullet, tenant organization support. Temporarily strike the first two sub bullets pending more clarification from Howard County. Because Paulette's working to get in touch with Paul in the Office of Law. And then, fourth major bullet, coalition building. Instead of starting that first sub-bullet with advocate, start it with advise OMCA on advocacy for legislative reforms and executive action in local and state government, and then, the rest stays the same.
How about to advocate for?
Or, where?
Say advise
Advise
OMCA
OMCA to advocate for,
to
sure,
advocate for.
sure, to advocate for, okay. All right. Now, is it clear as mud, Warren?
It is clear as mud.
All right, I'm gonna call the vote. All in favor of passing as amended and with the temporary two bullets suspended pending further legal? 1, 2, 5-0-0.
Congratulations, Paulette.
Paulette, thank you
Good
so
job,
much.
Paulette. Good job.
Congratulations. And once we figure out what's, for tenant organizations, what's doable in this county, and also, what's doable under county law that we can then, yeah, I just didn't want to delay you while we try to figure that out, because there's so many other things you can be doing in the meantime.
Mhm.
Okay.
Congratulations on getting the keys to the
Yes.
car.
Okay, the next, Bill's done.
No. I'm sorry. Yeah, too fast.
The next old business is the CI fiscal 25 budget request. So Brigida introduced this at the last meeting, and I asked that everyone look over this and see if they had any suggestions, modifications, additions, deletions from what we did last year as the starting point. Excuse me. And then we would bring it back for discussion today, so that we could, hopefully determine what our position is and then send it on to CA. So did anyone have any thoughts on what they've looked at over the past couple of weeks?
Are you expecting CA to approve any of these or fund any of these or partially fund any of them or?
We hope, maybe, but I mean, it's our ask, it's our wish list, yeah. I mean, certainly, we've had some successes, right? Because the what started as the tot lot pilot has turned into the play area repurposing and redesign, and CA has actually started investing in that and planning things, so that's a success. Some things, the more I hear, might be pipe dreams, like the second sheet of ice, but it doesn't mean we still don't want it, so we can keep putting it on there. Orchard Green Tot Lot is something where there's definitely been progress with multiple entities, so these are a lot of this is falls more onto the capital side, so those things take more time very often.
Yeah, it's good to start asking early though,
Yeah.
and eventually.
Mhm.
So I did notice in the Orchard Green section, it says Reb Branch Road. It also says build a pedestrian bike path instead of build a space
Oh.
A.
Missing a space, yeah, and a D.
Why do we have the play areas on there again?
This was just last
This is
year.
last year's.
We
Oh, it
haven't,
is?
I haven't changed anything,
Okay.
because the FY 24 cash reserves that Jonathan had mentioned something regarding that the last meeting. Bill had talked about the play area repurposing and redesign. You had
Right.
talked about the pools. And I think that was some of the things that were just briefly brought up the last meeting.
So you guys should put for pools I've done a lot of the budget analysis. CA can definitely afford to include pools. In fact, the play membership, they could make the play membership, I think that's the bottom rung, included for all residents in good standing, right? So that you wouldn't have to pay extra for that. So if you want to change including pools as a benefit of the annual charge for all residents, I think that would be a good thing.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, so the idea is to zero out the cost for the play membership, which I think is all the outdoor pools, the indoor pool, I think it's the golf, the putt-putt golf. I can't remember all the different things that are listed in
Yeah.
that. But that would be included. And in fact, well, there's more to it, but anyway, yeah, CA definitely has enough money to do that for the residents across Columbia, but if anything, we should make the pools, at least in Oakland Mills, be included as a benefit of the annual charge.
I think we could simply just say include play membership for all members in good standing, all CA
There you
members.
go.
Well, they're not, actually, we're not members, all residents in good standing. I
Mhm.
All
guess would be
residents in good
terminology.
standing, offer the play membership to all residents in good standing for no extra charge. As a, but as a benefit of the annual charge. However you guys want to word that, so it doesn't cost, so it shows that people don't have to pay more to take advantage of that. Means that
Um,
you're, you're
These are-
lean on time.
Yeah, so for tenants, everyone is in good standing because
Yep.
the way you're not in good standing is to have covenant violations on the property you own. So it more affects homeowners. So I don't even know if we've had these since you've been on the board. When we get one of those properties that gets to the 15-day notice and we petition CA to take the case and put a flag on the property. Part of what happens, if CA takes that and acts on it is that property owners basically rights and privileges to CA facilities and everything get suspended until they bring their property back into covenant compliance. And that's what I'm saying. A tenant wouldn't have to worry. All tenants are going to be in good standing because they don't, the only authority we actually have is the covenant. So tenants don't have that legal relationship with us that the property owners do.
If a property owner is like more than a certain number of months behind on paying their annual charge, they would also probably be not in good standing, I'm guessing.
That's what I was thinking relating to their charge too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that would be, we wouldn't even be aware of who they are. CA would know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that we really affect is we're the ones who petition CA to take away those rights for the covenant stuff. If they're, behind on annual charge, then CA is gonna handle that directly with them.
Do we want to keep in, the fund a lingual recruitment initiative?
I think so, because
I
every
think
year
so,
they
too.
talk to us about how they can't get anyone to Talbot Springs and they say, get people there who speak residents' language, and they say that's too hard.
Okay, good. I like that.
Don't get excited, because next year, if I'm still on the board, I'm gonna ask for swimming lessons for everybody, so that we're gonna have plenty of people who can be lifeguards.
Good.
It's all part of my plan, Jonathan.
Mhm.
I mean, years ago, when my kids were little, CA, they weren't free, but CA was offering the $2 lessons at Talbot Springs.
Mhm.
And CA did not go bankrupt as a result of that, and a lot of people learned how to swim for $2.
Yep,
Mhm.
For $2, I think OMCA should have a little pool fund to support that
right?
for the Oakland Mills residents anyway.
I agree. If we can't get free, if we can get it at a very, very, reasonable price where we could open it up and offer it to some number of residents, I'd be all for that. So probably
Well,
worth discussing later when we see how successful Karen is in bringing those prices down.
Yeah, it was an initiative started through Oakland Mills when it happened.
Oh, that's
Sandy,
interesting.
the former community organizer, worked with CA to get that put in place. And it was a great program. I don't know how many years it was in place, but it started after I started here, and I know they worked really hard to get it put in place.
I mean, Talbot Springs is a perfect pool to have swim lessons, right?
Mhm.
You do them
Mhm.
all day.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get too far in the weeds. Karen, the only thing I would say is when you do go for that in the future, even in Oakland Mills, it can't just be Talbot Springs because of the ADA issue. They have to make it available somewhere where anyone can access it.
Yep.
So
That's a
there
good
has to
point.
be a second one that is accessible.
Jonathan, maybe we should put this, I know this is a wish list item, but maybe that is one of the things that we should put on the list is a study. We want CA to conduct a study for making the Talbot Springs pool ADA compliant. I don't think we would get it, but if it's on a list, at least people are looking at that.
This is where I would turn to Sandy in the past. Brigida, I don't know if you know, didn't they do one or did
I
they just
believe
make it up?
When the whole neighborhood center issue was going on, I don't know if it was officially a study, but I know that they did a cost analysis to see how much it would be in relation to the other parts of the building as far as making it ADA compliant. Meaning like the age of the building, et cetera,
Right.
like weighing that, all of the, yeah.
Maybe it's one of those long-term capital projects.
Yeah,
That would be really hard to make ADA compliant. You'd almost need an elevator.
Mm-hmm.
you would.
Make it so.
Mhm. But you just where you go down all those stairs to get in right now, you tack a shaft to the side of the building right there, and there you go. It would have to be one of those elevators with doors on both sides because it would open on
Mhm.
one side to let people in, and then open on the other side to let people into the pool.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
When is this due?
The data's escaping me. I wanna say it's the end of this week, the 19th, which is why we put it on last week.
You mean the end of
Okay, I
next?
thought it was soon,
September.
yeah.
Next
So we
week,
have to,
yeah, sorry,
it's-
Bill.
13th is the end of this week. Friday the 13th this week.
Yeah,
No,
I know it's before, it's either the end of this week or the end of next week.
Okay.
I think we first get shown a draft budget, Brigida, 2 weeks from Thursday.
Okay. So for the pools. Study ADA accessibility for Talbot Springs for potential long-term capital project. Include a play membership for all residents in good standing for no extra charge above their annual charge. Fund multilingual recruitment initiative. Anything else for pools?
Were you gonna put anything about offering swim lessons?
Well, I mean, you guys could absolutely do that, but I wasn't gonna start asking for that till next year. First, I want to really push to get.
Yeah, I thought
Okay,
Karen
okay.
was waiting a year on that. That's
Okay,
why I held
okay.
off. Yeah.
But Bill, if you need a swim lesson, let me know. I used to teach those. I'm sure I could still do it.
All right, thank you. I had him as a kid at the pool I went to. It was normal.
So on the cash reserves, you all know how I feel about the cash reserves. I think we once again, well, that's a tough one because we don't know what the contract is going to be. I think at the very least, since they have done the 20% for the past few years, this isn't really a budget, a forward-looking budget item, it's backward-looking. I think we're owed an update on what's happened with the cash reserves that were supposed to have gone into these environmental projects,
Yeah.
because Oakland Mills and several other villages have gone above the 20%, turned that over to CA and don't know what's happening with that money we've turned over that was supposed to come back and fund these environmental projects.
You know what, Jonathan, that I'm gonna talk about that in my update, but you should definitely ask for an update. Absolutely.
And I mean, do we? So see, this is tough because they're asking for this while negotiations are going on. I was gonna say, do we want to be so bold as to put into this? We want that update, and by the way, we don't want a cash reserve cap anymore. Or does that start crossing over into the negotiations and we want to
Hmm.
kind of stay away from that right now?
I'd say probably
Stay away.
stay away
Stay away
from
from
it
it.
and go by what's in writing today, signed in
Okay.
writing today.
So I think we should say, based on the, let's just update. I think we should say, based on the current management contract, we request that CA continue to invest the excess 20%. So all the language after that stays the same. And then at the end of this, say, we also request a comprehensive update on, the status of, investments made with past reserves, or the reinvestments made with past reserves. We can wordsmith it, but basically, what's happened to all the above 20% we've given you since this thing started a few years ago?
Okay.
Because I mean, how many was it, Warren and Bill, was it like 3 years ago now where we actually walked some project
Mhm, I think
areas
it
with
was
John
3.
McCoy?
Yeah, I
And,
think so.
But nothing's
Yes.
happened.
We have not been made aware of the updates on
Right.
those projects that we
Right.
informally voted for.
Right.
That's correct.
Bill, for play area and repurposing and redesigned. Do you want to kind of rewrite that one to actually start, executing on it versus planning, or you still feel like
Let's
it's in
see.
planning?
No, let's see. Create for, because strike the word create, implement.
Yeah, implement. I was gonna say
Okay.
that.
They passed the strategy, right? So they passed that, or we.
Yes,
So that part is done. They should be acting on it, right? It's
exactly.
part of a
So it's
cycle.
So it's it's a strategy, the policies in place, so I would suggest implement village-based process now, right? It's time to execute.
I think they talked about how it was, Karen, help me with this. I think it was voted on in 2 parts. One is the policy, I think, and the other was process. I'm not sure. They separated the two, so the one was overarching, would continue forever, basically policy. And then I think it was the process to implement the policy. And the CA board, I passed the policy and the process, I think, and it's been months since I've looked at it. So that's
Do you
why.
have a
I'm
copy of the
okay.
bill? Because I was gonna say I can dig it out for you if you want me to.
Yes, I'd say the policy, implement the village-based policy. Let's see. Implement village-based policy for the play area repurposing and design. And let's see, the second one would be the policy and the process.
I think
Implement the
what we
policy
really-
and the process for play area repurposing and design. Recreate some existing toilet spaces to provide for recreational opportunities for all ages and multi-generational connection. Yeah, my gut feeling, Karen, if you could confirm it, implement village-based policy and process for play area repurposing and redesign, and then that second sentence stays there too. And well, let's do this. Recreate some existing play equipment areas. Was it, we called them play areas? Yeah.
Yeah.
Play areas as opposed to tot lots. So recreate some existing play areas as opposed to tot lot spaces.
So, don't forget, everything is on a cycle. So when they go around, right? They go around annually and they do safety inspections of all the play areas. And so if a play area fails its safety inspection, they're going to do something to fix that, right? They're either going to fix what already exists, or they're going to have to make a change, right? And then they're supposed to come to us. So I think what you're asking for is already in place, Bill, but it probably doesn't hurt to reiterate what we want here, just so that they don't forget that we have a strategy and a process in place.
Exactly, and this is a budget request. So basically, we're requesting that they put money in the budget to implement the policy and recreate some existing play areas, et cetera.
Okay, then I think what you're asking for, if I'm not mistaken, is fully fund the strategy and policy passed by the CA board at the end of fiscal year 24. I think that's what you're saying. Make sure that it's fully
Okay.
funded. So
Yeah,
is that what you want, Bill?
I like the words fully fund. You
Yeah.
got me at fully fund.
Okay. Yeah, you're
Money,
saying.
money, money. It's green. It's
So
green.
fully fund the village-based strategy and policy
For play area, yeah.
for play area repurposing and redesign. Recreate some existing play areas to provide for recreational opportunities for all ages and for multi-generational connections.
Yes.
And I think you should say following the
You can read
strategy.
my writing, yeah, or I can type it.
Following, I think, Jonathan, you probably want to put something in there about following the strategy that was passed by the CA board at the end of fiscal year 24, because I think it was one of the last things we did.
How about fully fund village-based strategy and policy as passed by the CA village board, as passed by the CA board?
Yep.
You need to cite when, because there's only one, right?
Right.
Yeah, at the end of
Fully
fiscal year
fund
24.
village-based strategy and policy as passed by the CA board for play area repurposing and redesign. And then the rest.
Yes. I like it.
Okay, and then we had pools. I say we just rinse and repeat the second sheet of ice, you know, we've done it for what,
Yeah.
13 years, so we'll do it another one.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I've been here.
Yeah.
I'm still all for tree replacement because I'm tired of looking at CA stumps.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the other thing on that one, Jonathan, is you might want to add something in there. I'm going to talk about this in my update, is not just replace, but preserve trees. CA is really good at chopping trees down. They're not that great at preserving what already exists. And we're at a point in Columbia history now where even the new trees that were planted rather, are 50 years old. We have some very mature trees in our villages and neighborhoods. So we want to make sure that we're not just willy-nilly chopping them down. I'm still confused why a tree was chopped down just past the bridge here near my house. I couldn't figure it out for the life of me why they took that tree down.
Have you mentioned that to anyone on CA staff, Karen?
Oh, about my tree over here?
No, about preserving trees.
I bring it up all the time.
What kind of reaction do you get?
I think that they would like to pat me on the head and send me on my way.
Okay. No, and the reason I ask is, and this is just hearsay, and that's why I was asking you, because you know, you have the more direct conversations. What I've heard is that CA doesn't want to take the liability for, quote, preserving a tree, because then if something happens and that tree ends up on someone's house, you know, that they have an issue. So they just come in and take the big old tree down, rather than trying to figure out how to preserve it. So, but I don't know how, that's hearsay. I don't know how true that is, and whether, you know, the legal people have said, no, we're not going to get into the business of preserving trees. I don't know if so I don't know if it's more a legal issue than a budget issue for CA. That's what I was wondering.
I don't know. The tree that I was just referencing wasn't going to hit anybody's house, so I don't know
Okay.
if I took it down. It was near the bridge, but it wasn't crooked or anything like that, so I'm still confused as to why it came down. Maybe it was diseased and I just didn't realize it, but I feel like they chopped down a lot of trees.
So how about please follow per CA policy for one-to-one tree replacement where possible, and you know, consider where possible preserving trees before taking them down. I'm trying to think of how to word this.
Yeah, that sounds
Just
I
good.
think
consider
they should
preserving-
focus on preservation before they focus. Is it possible is preservation should be their main focus, right? So I don't want to spoil it, but I'll talk about it a little bit, is that, you know, Sean in his goals. He has a big environmental goal. We'll probably talk about it on Thursday. This is the kind of stuff I want him to really consider when he's looking at that environmental goal. And I don't have it right in front of me right now, but and as part of the strategic plan, we don't want to lose tree canopy if we can help it. We want to preserve the tree canopy wherever we can, especially, I mean, everybody's aware that we were in the 90s, we were above 90 for 6 to 8 weeks, starting in probably the middle of June, all the way towards the end of August. There were a couple days in there that weren't brutal, but you know, the tree canopy plays a huge role in keeping the community cool, as well as the mature trees are essential for flood prevention. So I think those are some things that CA has to consider. So I'll talk about that a little bit in my update.
Okay.
Well, and I think that, and I don't know specifically, I'm sure they have something in place as to what they follow, but in listening to what you're saying, Karen, and then the idea of we want to replace tree, but if possible, you know, preserve the trees, but also preserve the tree canopy.
Yep. Well, Brigida,
I
you know,
had something in my head and it just
So-
floated right out the window.
How
so-
about?
I'll just say this real quick. Right now, I think Lake Elkhorn has hazardous algae in it again. And I think that there's probably, Brigida, I don't know if you've walked around Lake Elkhorn.
I have, yeah.
And there are probably signs up. I haven't walked over there in a couple weeks, so I don't know. But there's probably signs up telling people not to touch the water.
Mhm.
The tree canopy keeps the water cool. And those high rises that we've built in downtown Columbia are contributing to the warming of the climate here in Howard County. And they're part of the reason, you know, we had hazardous algae blooms last year. It's not just that we had an extra hot summer this year. We had the hazardous algae blooms last year, and that's not going to get better. That's not going to change. That's what I'm saying is, yeah, we want you, yes, please plant trees, but we cannot plant our way out of this issue. And so we need to make sure we're preserving. We need to make sure that we're preserving where we can.
So how about follow per CA policy, 1-to-1 tree replacement where possible, prioritize preserving trees before removing them.
Yep. Thank you, Jonathan. I like that. That was very well worded.
Mm-hmm.
We should probably change the heading,
Yes.
fully fund tree preservation and replacement.
Yeah, I
How
like
about
that.
how about just retitle the heading, preserve tree canopy?
There you go.
Okay.
And then we immediately follow that by saying, by the way, cut down these trees. Cut down these other
These
trees.
invasive species.
Removable, yeah.
Tree of
Tree-
heaven,
yeah,
those are
trees.
nasty trees.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, and also I do want to kill all the gumball trees, but that's a different
Oh gosh, those are the worst.
Safety hazards.
They are a safety hazard. I actually have a plan for those, but
All right, we did we have minor, edits to the Red Branch Orchard Green tot lot, just to get spelling and spacing right. Anything else there, Warren?
Nope.
EV charging, that still seems like a
Yes,
nice thing to have more of.
definitely.
Yeah.
Bike racks still seem like a nice thing to have more of.
Mhm.
did you guys see
Anything
that Calvin had put in that Tesla charging station? I think I saw a newsletter about that.
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
Really?
I don't know if Vicky's there in the room. She probably knows about it.
anything else?
No.
All right,
Yeah.
is there a motion to approve as edited?
Yes.
So moved.
Look at that, everyone's moving. I'll take.
We're all
I
still
heard-
awake. We're all
I
still
heard
awake.
Andrew first. Is there a second? A second, Bill? All right, all in favor? 5 zip zip. Yes, please. Bill,
Yes, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the HOA infrastructure enabling draft letter here. to Dr. Ball. And hopefully it's self-explanatory that in April 25th, Governor Westmore signed the HOA Infrastructure Enabling Bill into law. And this provides for local jurisdictions to create an HOA fund and process to set aside 25% of each HOA homeowner's property tax payment into a county fund to provide grant money to HOAs for infrastructure needs, okay? And HOA has 7 sub HOAs, townhome condo communities who could benefit by this. Some of our HOAs, as example, own their internal roadway system, and some do not. Certain HOAs within Oakland Mills, the internal roadway is owned by the county. It's county roads, and the county takes care of plowing and repair replacement. HOAs that own their own internal roadways have to pay for snow plowing and repair replacement. So what we wanted to do was to encourage Dr. Ballan to work with the county council to create the legislation in the county to create this funding process. And this is what the letter is here for. We to help the county determine potential costs of HOA infrastructure replacement, we recommend the county institute a pilot project at Holly Court sub HOA in Oakland Mills. And we request a meeting with Dr. Ball to discuss the proposed pilot project with members of our Oakland Mills Village Board and the Holly Court HOA board members. And we note that Dr. Calvin Ball has been very helpful with strong leadership, and they show OMCA issues like the recent traffic safety concerns, et cetera. And we want to work with him in creating the HOA infrastructure grant fund. And I did include for board members a 1-page of background information. We give more detail for those who have not been on the board long and maybe not be as familiar with the details here. So this is the letter. It's been a longstanding issue that we've worked on in the housing committee to help HOAs get the grant money to fund this, to make a long story short. So if there's any other, questions you have, more details that you want to know, just fire away.
Hey, Bill, I have a quick question. It's been a while since I read the legislation. I supported it. I thought it was good legislation. But is it it only applies to homeowners in HOAs, their property taxes, no one else's? I'm trying to understand what the impact would be, since I know that school funding comes out of property taxes.
Yes, and we have on the call Alex Akimian,
All right,
who
Alex.
helped write this legislation with the Maryland legislature and has worked very closely, so that if there are specific questions like that, Alex, if you could chime in to answer that, please.
Sure. The way the legislation at the state level is worded, it would apply to homeowners associations, condominiums, and co-ops,
Okay.
all 3. What they call common ownership communities.
Hey, Alex, is it 25% or is it up to 25%?
It's 25%.
Okay. Those are all my questions. I'm good.
So how would the pilot project work? Would the
Okay, that would be a sort of a test of the concept, early test of the concept to help the county create its program. It would be a test here in Howard County. And at this point, we're not asking the county to start a countywide program. We're simply requesting to simply implement a relatively modest pilot project that would test the concept of providing a grant to repave the roads in a homeowners association in the county. And Holly Court for years now has volunteered to serve as a test case. And we've recently found out that there's precedent for the county executive creating a pilot project like this. They already provide stormwater management funds to homeowners associations. And that was not done by council legislation. That was done by administrative action. So the reason that this request is made to the county executive rather than the county council is because this precedent for a pilot project like this being initiated at the county executive level.
Okay, thanks.
A question, so I guess does this mean that, like, well, how are the 25% will that, does each county have to make laws so that actually starts, that fund starts happening, or does, will it happen automatically by the state law, or?
No, the state law enables
Okay.
each county to then create their own laws to implement the 25% and the fund, et cetera. Any other questions? Okay, then I'll move that the board approves this letter to be sent to Dr. Ball.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? That's 500. Thank you all, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I heard.
Thank you.
Andrew was the second.
Second.
All right, board chair report. Brigitte and I have been talking, and obviously we've welcomed 2 new members to the board, and we've tried to meet with you and give you crash courses and things. It's been a while since we've done this, but we would like to do a kind of a board orientation session. Even though we've been together for a few months, we haven't really had time to do something like that. So instead of doing normal business for the most part at our October 8th meeting, we're going to do that orientation, because that way we can hear from our leadership staff. We have veterans of past boards, we have new people to boards, and this will allow all of us to, kind of come together. Brigitte, did you want to elaborate on that a bit more?
Well, you and I had discussed possibly starting at 6 for dinner, and then
Yes.
7 would be where OMCA staff would come in either virtually or physically to give a presentation on what they do. And then that would be roughly 7 to 8, and then 8 to 9 would be board goals and objectives.
Right. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. So that'll happen then. In other news, interesting developments on the letter that you all unanimously voted on the management contract.
Mm-hmm.
So let me go through this. So Oakland Mills has voted in favor of it. I want to make sure I get this right. King's Contrivance voted in favor of it. Long Reach voted in favor of it. Owen Brown voted in favor of it. Town Center is voting tomorrow. Dorsey Search is voting next week when they next meet. Harper's Choice is voting on the 17th. Hickory Ridge approved it yesterday. So the trend is toward the village boards approving it so far. That's the good news. The interesting news is Wild Lake, and I'm not even sure that they've approved it yet, because I haven't seen anything indicating that they've done that. Wild Lake came back and sent a note to everyone, and I'm not going to go into all of the details of what they said, but oh, Wild Lake was supposed to be discussing it yesterday, so we haven't heard from
yes.
Wild Lake yet. So Wild Lake wants to once again host the next gathering of board chairs and village managers. Again, this is not a decision-making group. This is advisory. We take everything back to the boards. The interesting thing was they sent something and they said that they have been talking with Judell Campbell, who's the CA staff member who Brigitte and the other village members have been working with and negotiating with. And she wants the opportunity to receive our recommendations, which I assume is the letter, in a preliminary manner before we submit it to the CA president and board. And she wants to work jointly with us to find the best avenue forward. And then he goes on to say she would like to assist us in crafting and fine tuning a submittal that she feels we are attempting to achieve. So, I mean, to put it bluntly, I didn't like that, and several other chairs didn't either. So I went back and said, no, I can't participate in such a meeting or represent Oakland Mills because I feel that crosses the line from what the board has entrusted me to do and what we've entrusted the village managers to do, and now I'm potentially in negotiations with CA staff, and that's not appropriate for me. Because I don't speak for our board, I bring things back to our board like this letter. I also said it doesn't make much sense to me that a staff member of the party with which we're negotiating wants input into what we're going to send to the leadership of the party we're negotiating with. So I said, no, I won't do that. I won't do that meeting if that's what the plan is. Other chairs, and since this isn't open meeting stuff and this is a gathering, I'm not gonna list who, but another chair came back and said, oh, and the other thing I mentioned was, we all stressed that we were gonna take these back to our village boards with the message, don't let perfect get in the way of good enough. This is our one chance, because if we keep tweaking and wordsmithing, we have to keep bringing it back for more votes. I said, I'm done bringing things to Oakland Mills for votes. They passed this unanimously. That's what my board told me they want. Done. I'm done. Another chair basically came back and said the same thing. Like, we already voted on this thing. We all agreed this is what we're doing. Another chair also raised, the potential legal issues if we create the appearance or actually act in a way where the board chairs are negotiating with CA without authorization to do that, because it's the village managers who the village is authorized to do that. So, another village said, no, I don't want to participate in something like that either. Another village came back and said, for all the reasons that Oakland Mills and this other village I was referring to stated, no, we don't want to do that either. And then I believe there was another village that came back. Oh yeah, and another village came back and said, yep, I agree with what everyone else is saying. So now we have what is that now? 4 villages on record saying, nope, we're not going to participate in this next gathering. We stand behind the letter and we stand behind the village managers in those negotiations. So basically what I'm doing is just informing all of you, because I'm not going to do anything beyond what you all entrust me to do. You entrusted me to go to this thing, to bring back a letter, and you had the opportunity to vote. You did. We spoke, we voted, the letter's out there. If all 10 villages sign on, great, we'll sign it and send it on, but I'm not going to participate in any discussions where we're tweaking the letter, where we're bringing in basically our negotiating counterpart or their staff. So that's it. If it comes back and says, okay, our next gathering is just going to be for all of us to get together and sign the letter and send it off, I'm perfectly happy to do that. So that's where we stand with this right now. So I'm hoping by the next meeting I can update you all and say all 10 villages have voted in favor of it. The letter's going. We're good. About half the villages are good with it so far. From what I can tell, every board has passed it unanimously. There hasn't been any official objection from any village board member in the villages that have voted on it. And in the next few days, we should know how the others play out. So that's where that is.
Excellent.
The only other thing I had, and unfortunately Vicky could not be here with us tonight because she needed to attend like 3 other meetings at once. But I did want to, that's what I was trying to say before, I did want to publicly thank her. As you know, there's been some utility work going on at Stevens Forest and Kilimanjaro, which is already a terrible intersection. And for whatever reason, they saw fit to set that up basically as kids were walking to school. So they had cones and vehicles and all this stuff at that intersection as kids were walking to school. And lo and behold, last week was also the week where, for whatever reason, the usual crossing guards weren't there. So the police did what they were supposed to do, and they sent auxiliary officers. Except one day when there was a lot of work going on, a lot of cones out, the auxiliary officers were late. So a resident alerted me to that. I was actually down in DC at work. I could tell they were setting up before I left for work, but I didn't see this. And said, like, there are little kids from Stevens Forest just wandering around trying to figure out how to get across this street with all these cones and heavy equipment, and there's no one there. So I emailed Vicky and she responded like immediately. I said that we've got to fix this for tomorrow morning and going forward. And she was on it right away. She got in touch with Paul, who got in touch with the right people at the county police. And it sounds like the following day, the Friday, everything was, you know, back to orderly again. The auxiliary was there early. I haven't heard of any other issues this week. So I wish she could have been here for me to look her in the eye and say thank you, but wherever you are tonight, Vicky, thank you very much for protecting those little kids, because like these are, you know, these are kids 10 years old and younger, and they're trying to navigate a construction zone without crossing guards that morning. So I really, and I emailed her, you know, basically after business hours, and she was, you know, on it so that it was good to go Friday morning. So definitely very much appreciated. And that's all I have. I'll turn it over to Karen unless anyone has any questions for me. Sorry, I should ask that.
Yep.
All right, Karen.
Okay, I'll try to be quick because I already gave away most of what I was going to talk about. So this Thursday, we have a board meeting and it's going to be relatively short, but one of the things we're going to be talking about are Sean's goals. So if you haven't gone out to look at the packet, I encourage you to do so. It is already posted, and let me know if you have any questions or things that you want me to raise. So some of the things that have really, I thought we needed to change significantly over the last year was the strategic plan, and that's Sean's goals are somewhat tied into that. And so I had told Sean when he started that I didn't think that the strategic plan that the draft strategic plan that we ended up with, that we never passed, we never adopted, I didn't feel like it was very good. And I think other board members also expressed that to Sean. It had a lot of very nebulous types of activities that CA would partake in that I just felt like it didn't make sense or even explain why we were going to do some of these activities. So one of those things obviously is the environment, and there's several of us on this committee, I would assume all of us on this board, who care about the environment and what's being done. And that is one of Sean's big goals in there, in stormwater management and managing our open space and our facilities as we get further and further into this climate emergency, right? So these are the things that I'm going to be talking to him about on Monday. I have a meeting with Sean on Monday to talk about the strategic plan, talk about his goals. And I think I've said this to you guys before, and really working to make sure that we're building innovation and resiliency. And those are the two key words for me in this, into the strategic plan and into Sean's goals, because resiliency to me is, you know, how are we quickly adapting to the changing circumstances around us? That's number one. And then the innovation, where is the innovation coming from to keep CA, keep Columbia, you know, a unique place to live, so that the residents are still getting they're still getting full value for their annual charge, and they feel like, you know, living in Columbia is totally worth it. Where I've been hearing from a lot of people that they pay the annual charge and they don't really know what they're getting for it. So just some things for you guys to be paying attention to is this Thursday, we'll talk about Sean's goals. And then on Monday, I'm meeting with them about the strategic plan. So if there's anything anybody wants to bring up to me, they want me to bring up to Sean or in the meeting on Thursday, just let me know. And I'll put it on my list of things that I talk about. And that's all I have, Jonathan.
All right.
Oh,
Just
and
one-
don't get
if I
COVID.
could.
That's what I'll tell everybody. Don't get COVID. Get vaccinated as soon as possible.
Just one quick comment, Johnson. Okay,
Yes, go ahead.
Karen, I participated in many of the strategic plan meetings, and I had the same feeling. It was kind of nebulous. There weren't hard and fast goals and hard and fast plans to reach goals, to measure them, et cetera. And that was my major concern. It was a lot to do about nothing. It was the end result. That was my feeling too.
So I'll say again what I said before in here, because I attended one of those as well. I didn't feel that the contractor even really understood what CA does or is responsible for. We spent a lot of time kind of correcting the record on CA's behalf about what CA is and what CA does and what authority it has, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jonathan. I don't know how that entity was selected. I was to say the least, I was disappointed with them, but oh yeah, things that should be on the strategic plan that I didn't see, making things affordable and accessible. You know, if you have, you know, making sure that the residents are actually participating in the programs, the facilities, things like that, that would seem to be missing. There was a lot of outreach, just to have outreach, and I was like, well, it's good to have open lines of communication, but what is the purpose of your outreach? What is the problem that you're trying to solve, or what are you hoping to bring about from all this outreach? What will you have at the end of the day? And when I asked those questions, I couldn't seem to get an answer.
All right, any other questions for Karen? Okay, then we move on to Brigitte.
Okay, well, the first thing is, it is, believe it or not, time to look at the first quarter financials. And I am proud to say there were no variance memos needed for any line items. So that means I did a pretty good job predicting for first quarter finances.
Well
So
done,
the
Brigitte.
What, Karen?
Well done.
Oh, thank you. So Debbie was in last week and she reviewed everything. And part of what happens at the end of the first quarter when she reviews, she looks at what we spent in the first quarter. And we try to look at it and predict how it will play out in each quarter for the next 3 quarters. So sometimes it's obviously hard to do because you don't know things like how many security deposits are we gonna retain? We have no idea. How much additional cleaning are we gonna require? We have no idea. How many repairs? We hope not a lot, but so you kind of go based on what happened the year before, but even that can be funny because last year we didn't have any rentals January through March. So we had a long discussion and you'll see the breakdown. I think the quarterly breakdown, yeah, is the quarterly breakdown or is that just what? Yeah, so she broke it down by quarter. And so that is initially when we do the budget, it's broken down evenly for each quarter. But like I said, for after the first quarter, then we get a little more specific. So yeah, everything pretty much was within what we thought. Of course, our rentals, it's a big season for rentals, so that always is good. And that in turn makes our janitorial wages pretty high. One of the things that I do want to note is what CA does with benefits, payroll benefits for health insurance for full-time employees. Is when you are putting the budget together, they ask you if there's going to be any new employees that might be joining on to the health benefits. And when that was initially put out, there was not, but then circumstances changed. And so, and knowing that they account for that in what they give you for their monies from the assessment share. But I did not know that at the time of putting the budget together, so that there will be a discrepancy on that line item because we do have an employee who is utilizing those benefits now. So that is just something to note.
That's going to happen. Brigitte, I have a question.
Yes.
So there's a pretty substantial decrease in cash and checking, increased cash in savings. Is that basically that just funds transfers in our assets? So fiscal 25 to 24, it's minus 125,000 in checking, plus almost 144,000 in savings. Is that just moving money
Yes,
around?
it's just
Okay.
moving money around.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Anything else you wanted to highlight? That was the only thing that really kind of jumped out at me.
No, and it's when. Because we have multiple accounts and CA puts the money into one and we take out from the other, so that's where
Yeah.
that plays back.
And I kind of remember that in the past with Sandy, but I was like 90% sure, but yeah.
But no, those were the only things that I wanted to,
Right. Any questions for Brigida?
Nope.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the first quarter financials as submitted? All right, motion from Andrew, second from Paulette. Any further discussion? All in favor? 500. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Did a little Rex Barney there. I didn't even realize I was doing that. Go
I
ahead, what I'm talking
I will
about.
have the official copies from Debbie sometime this week. What I have is just the, that's just the.
Oh, and I just went and
PDF.
signed an initial this thing for you. All right.
3 copies that
Okay,
she'll send
I will
for
not,
me
I
for
will
you to
not
sign.
hand
I'm
this to you
gonna
then, okay.
Bring it by your house so you. can
Thought I
sign
was ahead of the
it.
game.
The other things, most of them are written on, the village manager report. There will be a community email going out to the community regarding the donations, because that period will be opening up, where people will be able to submit donation requests. And it does close on October 15th. So it will be sent out as its own email, as well as, Amy will include it in the e-news. And it has all the instructions, as far as how to go about doing that. I have started, it was something I wanted to do last year and I just wasn't able to fit it into everything, but I really wanted to start it this year at the beginning of the school year. I've reached out to all the PTAs and the boosters, in hopes that I will get to go to one of their meetings. And I went to the FAB meeting first. A lot of them didn't want me to come to their first meeting. They wanted me to come to their second meeting, which is in October. But FAB let me come to their meeting last night and I just had a few handouts and a brief presentation. Basically, how Oakland Mills can work with you as a partner, whether it's, you know, what we can do for you and what you can do for us. We like to have your student volunteers. We also like for you to come to our festival, be a part of our festival. So just a variety of things. And I've gotten, I've heard from 3 of the 7 that I've sent out. So I'll probably send another email, you know, as we get farther into the school year, because sometimes people are a little overwhelmed at the beginning of the school year. And last year we talked about, and I'm just mentioning this briefly, but we talked about doing some of the election, the monitor committee, the chair, as well as the guidelines much earlier than we had been. So today I went through the guidelines and the calendars, as well as set up an email for the election monitor committee seeking members, that I was going to send out, if you all were okay with it, probably at the end of September to start getting members. And then I was hoping to bring the calendar and the guidelines to hopefully hopefully the second meeting in October.
I love it.
Yeah, so I went through them today, but I just wanted to give you all a heads up that I was looking to that for election 2025. This Saturday is shredding. Amy and I will be hanging out at Pizza Man. So for Oakland Mills residents, everybody can bring 3 boxes for free. And they will be there from 8:30 to 11:30. And we're almost filled for the festival.
Yeah, the vendor spots,
Yes.
yeah.
So next meeting, Amy will have all the updates and the wonderful news about the festival on the 5th. And there's one other thing I wanted to point out. I'm sure you all saw the tree giveaway email. We're almost full. They're almost all given away. People really were excited about that. And Lavinia had our concert this week. Poor Lavinia got sick right before her concert. Luckily, she was able to get some medicine from the doctor and she was able to pull her concert off, but I have not seen her because she's been home resting, so maybe tomorrow or Thursday, she said she might stop by, but I heard it was wonderful. A couple of our staff members went and they said it was really great, so another sold out wonderful concert from Lavinia, so.
Yep, we got it.
Any questions for Brigida?
Mm-mm.
Well, then we are on to the bulletin board. Amy?
I did think of something, and it is in the village manager report, but there's one more thing, and it's that our Lively Arts concert, our first one is gonna be on October 25th. With Chris Campbell, who is one of our favorites, and he's coming back, and he was very excited, he posted as soon as we finalized everything back in July, he was very happy to come back to the other barn, so. I'd encourage people to get your tickets and, you know, if you've got some little ones to bring. And also encourage, you know, friends that have little ones, bring their kids and stuff, so.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Brigida?
And be on the lookout in your mailbox for an invitation to our volunteer / new resident dinner on November 4th.
Oh, that's fine.
Cool.
Bill?
Nope.
Nope. Andrew? Paulette? Warren?
No,
Karen?
Nope.
Adjourned. Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
bye-bye.
Feel better, Karen. Oh, he gone.